Afternoon, Gaffer. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Can you start us off, as usual, with the injury situation, please?
Some slightly more positive signs in the sense that Ben Mee got some minutes in a behind closed doors game, and so did Phil Bardsley. A couple of other players as well, but just really top-ups for them. We're still going to be missing Jack Cork, of course, making progress, but a longer situation. Merritt Peters will not be available, and Johan's got a chance. We'll have to make a decision with him, and a couple of others with minor stuff. But we are beginning to look like the squad that I know we've got, and the fit squad that I know we've got, and a squad that's capable. And so I think that's slightly more positive and beginning to get more positive as the weeks go by.
As far as Ben's concerned, I'm sure you'd love to have him back as soon as you possibly can. Do you think there's a chance of him playing in this game on Friday?
Yeah, he's got a chance. He's feeling pretty good. Certainly injury-free wise, he's good and he's clear. Look, it's not just about Ben, but I think he's earned his spurs here over many years. He's a player that virtually all the time I've been here has been on my team sheet. So, he's earned the right to be an important player. But I mustn't take away from other players here who have done very well. And, the stretch that we've had with injuries, it's still given other players a chance to come and play and get match time, which is important to us over the season. But it's fair to say he is a very good player, and he has been an important player for us, and I think he will be going forwards.
As far as injuries are concerned, you mentioned trying to get some back, and obviously the debate keeps raging on about whether we should have 3 substitutes or 5 substitutes, and you've made your sort of views clear on that previously. But Pep Guardiola was talking about it last week, saying that as far as he was concerned, it was more an issue of player welfare, player safety. Can you get where he's coming from in that respect?
Well, it's slightly different. I've said all along that I do think it favours the big clubs. However, I must make it clear that they often have a lot more games. They have the pressures that come with playing in some of them games. If you're going into, often going down the different rounds of the cup competitions, then going into Europe, etc., etc. So it is slightly different, but I don't think you can equally have different rules for some than others. But I do get their point. It is slightly different for them. There are a bigger demand on the games and the amount of minutes that players play over a season. For us, it's just non-effective. I just think that it would give the powerful clubs in the division who carry really big squads, it does give them the upper hand slightly. You can't guarantee that, by the way. I just think the more players available, the more options they can use, the more substitutions, let's say, they could possibly make. I just think it does give them a slight edge as well as the riches that they have. But I must say, I do understand Pep Guardiola and other managers, when their teams are successful and often successful, the demands of the modern game, and there's lots of them, including, of course, none other than not on the pitch, but all the travelling that possibly comes your way. We've had it ourselves in the European season, and we had some quite incredible journeys and situations to deal with.
Chelsea at the weekend obviously was not the result you were looking for, but you have been having improving performances as the season has gone by. You've been in situations like this before in terms of runs without wins. So is it a question of trying to draw on that experience at the moment and make sure that nobody panics?
Well, I've never thought panic solves anything. There's that one out the way. It's never been something that I've been overly thinking about. It's always the work, the organisation, the way they go about our business, the reminders, making sure the players are fit and well and their well-being's good and the atmosphere and all these things. So I think that's intact. I think the detail has been missing in some of the performances. I thought it was a good performance. In the 2 performances, actually, West Brom was one that my old manager John Duncan used to call a winning draw. And the one against Tottenham was a very good performance. Most people considered, I certainly considered we deserved something out of it. Against Chelsea, they were too strong. We weren't at the performance level needed. And I've said all along, when you play the really superpower clubs, you've got to be right on top of your performance. You might need a decision to go your way. We didn't get that either. And if you don't get them things right, you often get beat. Not always, but you often do. So there's just a reality to that game, and sometimes it happens that way. The main focus for me is to, you want to get that first win. I think psychologically that's good for the group. You get to a point, ideally you want it through performance, but you'll take however it comes. That's the way it goes. To get that first win, you'll take it, you move forwards, and you look to build on that. So we've got to work to get that.
And it's going to be tough against Brighton, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure you probably saw, as I did, the game against Spurs at the weekend, that they put in a really strong performance. They are a tough side to go up against and try and beat, although you do have a very good record away there.
Yeah, I mean, they're a good side. They've put a lot of investment into the side over the last sort of 2 to 2.5 years or so. The manager's trying to shift the way of working into what he wants and getting somewhere probably he feels. I don't know what his view of that would be. They're that side. They're capable. They don't always get the points on the board as many as people would think from their performances, but they're a very capable side, like most are in the Premier League. And, as I always said many times, we have to make the players aware of the opposition, which we do, but a lot of the focus is on us now. It's on us performing. We've got to continue that. Like I say, I would take an ugly one or a lucky one. We'd all take that as a manager. But your ideal way is to earn the right to win games. And if we do that, then it's a better base to continue on from. Imbalance that, you take what comes, from any situation, as long as you get the first win. And then, like I said, the story changes somewhat.
And obviously after that, not long to go before you have another international break, we expect to have the England squad announced tomorrow. Are you expecting that maybe Nick Pope and James Tarkowski will be involved?
I'd like to think they're both in with a shout. I've never tried to pick the national sides for anyone. I certainly won't now, but I'd like to think both of them are in with a shout. Both very good players, both, earned the right, if you like, to be considered. So I'd certainly think they were at least considered.
And given the way the situation is, particularly with COVID and with the whole football situation at the moment, do you question the wisdom of there being another international break, A, so close to the last, and B, with the situation as it is?
No, it was set at the beginning of the season. We made clear the dates and how they would be and what would be required to fulfil them dates. And I think I can only presume, I've said this before, that the way the national sides operate, I don't know the detail, but certainly the way that we're operating here, the controls we've got in place from the guidelines of the Premier League, I think are as sort of powerful as you could get them, I think, and being observed by all concerned. I can only imagine when they go away on these trips that safety is important, doing the right thing is important, and therefore all the right guidelines are put in place.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fraser. Mandy at PLP.
Hello, Sean.
Hiya.
Hiya. Graham Potter had said recently, if we're now a club that expects to win games in the Premier League just because we're Brighton, I must have missed the memo. Would you say that you've experienced a similar thing in terms of expectations in your season, in your time at Burnley?
I think the story changes. The more seasons you're in the Premier League, I think the story changes, and people often start kind of suggesting you're a bona fide Premier League club or an established Premier League club. I've certainly never thought that, not because I don't believe that we can be that. It's just that the levels of investment, the way the club's ran, it's difficult. Every summer is a restart, as I call it. Nothing's taken for granted, and this so far has proved that. Not in a good way, by the way, I must say. But, we finished 10th last year. There's no guarantees. I certainly didn't come into this season thinking there was any guarantees. The last season doesn't know you the next one, etc., etc. So, the slate's cleared and you get on with it. So he might be alluding to that. They have invested over the last few years, but they have got a different manager. He's trying to build his own way and how the team can operate. It takes time. So I understand his train of thought. We've had it ourselves, and like I say, we've been considered that side who are established. I've never thought that, not because I don't believe in the club or what we do. It's just because the Premier League's a very, very difficult league, and if you start throwing established around, I think there's only a handful of clubs, usually the top, certainly 7 or 8, who you consider that. The rest are in the pot and have to work hard for their season in the Premier League.
Graham also said in his press conference today that you've been on the wrong end of some fine margins this season. Would you agree with that in the performances that you've seen so far?
Somewhat, not in all games. We certainly weren't against Chelsea, weren't good enough, and they were. Other games I think we have, but that is part and parcel of the Premier League when you're us. We know that. We've got to work more, not harder by any means, but with more detail in both boxes and both ends of the pitch to get on the right side of their margins. There's no lack of effort, no lack of will, but what we've got to find are the real quality moments, both in defence and attack, to make sure we do get the margins right. And so, yeah, there's some truth in that, but equally, don't want to start making excuses. A couple of games we haven't been strong enough to get the result that we need.
You've had similar slow starts before, Sean. It's been a little bit of a trend at times in your time at Burnley. But does that experience and can that experience help in terms of the players knowing they've been here before and they can get through it?
I think it helps, but it doesn't guarantee anything. I think the awareness of what we can do rather than what we can't is there. We have historically gone strong down the ends of seasons. Some of our starts have been up and down. It's difficult. It's not an easy situation. We've often gone into the next season from the last weaker on paper. This is weaker than what we finished the season before. So I think this season's the case. We lost a number of players at the end of last season at the end of the lockdown period or during that, actually, before the end of last season. We've invested in Dale Stevens being the main one, and obviously Will as well. But, when you look at the squad, that does have a challenge to it. Within all of that, I still believe in the players, 100%. I'm proud of what they do, the way they train, the way they work. Doesn't change that just because we haven't won a game or because we had a tough start. It doesn't change my pride in what they deliver. It just changes the fact that we haven't got that win and we have to work hard to get that. I don't believe that now and again you luck out, but I think, as I suggested, that you want to work for the wins. I just think it's a better way of working. There's a better base to work from as well. I would take a lucky one, of course, but there's nothing to build on with lucky ones. You want to build on performances. So a couple of our performances have been right to get results. We haven't quite got them. We've got to go and deliver them kind of performances to make sure we do get wins.
And just finally from me, I know you won't be a manager to blame injuries and absentees in terms of the form, but how much of a boost do you think it could be to get some of the players back? Probably more of them maybe after the international break and give you a bit of a kickstart for your season.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's the balance of trying to speak factually about these situations. I don't want it misconstrued as being excuse. We didn't make any excuses last season after lockdown, and yet we had the similar amounts of injuries, and we won games, got points on the board, and finished 10th. So, I can't suddenly turn on the excuses. There are just facts. We have missed some very important players. They are getting back fit now. We want them truly fit and really Premier League fit. That will take a bit of time. In that time, we've got to work hard to get points on the board. It's, to continue having the next layer of building, if you like, to move on through the season. We do need results. It's simple as that. It's a very unforgiving league. They don't come easily. So the next few games are very important to get a result and to continue to build through the injury period we've had, and therefore have a base to work from as the season grows.
Hello Clarets fans, Phil Bird here. Make sure you subscribe to Burnley's official YouTube channel and turn on notifications, otherwise you might miss moments like this. Oh, what a goal! And Wood was there to finish it!
You're spitting Glenn Little, look at us.
We hope you enjoyed the video and we look forward to seeing you at the next one. Up the Clarets.